Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video, and continuing on with the Disney Animated Movie Week. And that's right, guys. I'm sure a lot of you were expecting and waiting for me to review this. Well, now I am. Yep. Of course I had to. Could not miss out reviewing this, and, perfect for this being a part of this batch of reviews. And not to mention, this one Disney animated film is celebrating its anniversary big time. Yeah. And, 1995 was quite a good year for Disney. Well, because especially in the realm of animation, they had two biggies that same year. Well, obviously, the other one being the first ever computer animated film, and it was basically a buddy picture with Disney and Pixar, that of course being Toy Story. Now that came out very later that year, around Thanksgiving. But this one, it came out earlier, and it's hard to believe that. And to those that worked on a Goofy movie, who'd have thought how much of a huge impact this one Disney animated film from the 90s, outside of the Disney Renaissance. I mean, obviously, the Disney Renaissance films, they of course left a huge impact. Disney in the 90s was definitely an interesting and excellent decade for Disney. Of course, with the Disney Renaissance, but more than that. And this being one of them that was an animated film outside of the Disney Renaissance, and in that same territory with a couple of other Disney animated films that were not really a part of the Disney Renaissance, but still, as mentioned, Toy Story, and there was also, say, most prominently, The Nightmare Before Christmas, and this being one of them, and yeah, again, it's amazing how much of a huge impact this left off for so many of people who grew up with this, even having a huge impact on the African-American culture, just, yeah. So that's right, guys. I am now finally reviewing, from 1995, a Goofy movie. Oh, yo! Yes. Had to do my Goofy impression, his laugh, Oh, yo! Okay. So, yes, guys, a Goofy movie. Again, it's amazing, even still to this day, how much this movie means to so many people. And I'm sure the same goes for any of you. I don't know, maybe not a lot of people, certainly I'm one of them. Yeah. I don't know, sadly, I'm just not in that territory like everyone else where, when they grew up and when they watched it, just, yeah. But that's not to say that no way do I disrespect this or anything like that. I don't dislike it, no. It's really good. I really enjoy this. And having done a rewatch, and on account that, well, here I am now doing my review, yeah. It's amazing, and say what you will, but I think to a lot of people, this movie still holds up for what it is, and even at that time, like, what it spoke to a lot of people at that time, and with those that were a part of this, and most prominently the film's director, Kevin Lima, what he brought to this one Disney animated film, just, yeah, nobody could have imagined what this was going to be like when it made its debut that year. Yeah, but the first things I have to say about Goofy movie overall, because, yeah, well, my earliest experience knowing and watching about this movie, well, it was another one of those Disney films I remember watching during the good old days of Disney on television, cable, and such, and yeah, I do remember watching this. I think it was like either between, say, Toon Disney and Disney Channel. I think most prominently Toon Disney, and before, Toon Disney would be called Disney XD. Of course. And yeah, I seem to recall watching this a couple of times, all the way through, and I remember some of the promos and bumpers that, coming up next, a Goofy movie, or this coming week, just, all that. And, geez, even I can remember, I think, like, say, because, like, sometimes Disney did, like, a special, like, marathon of, like, showing random movies. I remember, like, I think Goofy Movie was one of them, but I think also, say, I do remember one where it was, say, 102 Dalmatians, Tarzan, Atlantis, Hercules, and Peter Pan Return to Neverland. Maybe a Goofy Movie was in there, too, but maybe, and I say maybe, but I just remember, like, sometimes, Goofy Movie would be in the lineup of a batch of films that Disney would show from the next day and the day after, and I also remember watching and seeing an extremely Goofy movie as well, and I, come to think of it, because obviously both Goofy movies were shown kind of back to back, I guess. Yeah, I think, I do recall that. And I also remember watching when they started to re-air a buttload of animated shows from the 90s during the days of Disney Afternoon. Well, A Goof Troop was one of them. So I remember watching a good chunk of A Goof Troop, and I think I did watch A Goof Troop probably, maybe after, say, a Goofy Movie. I think so, yeah. Well, and, in reality, because, Goof Troop came out before, say, a Goofy Movie. And interesting facts about, the whole connection with Goof Troop and a Goofy Movie. Obviously, you know this, so, yeah. But, revisiting it, and because I've seen it before a good chunk of times, and on my revisit, because what a huge impact, again, this movie left off. A fun, entertaining Disney animated film where it's all about, say, a father and son road trip adventure, father and son, connecting, especially the father trying to connect with his teenage son, and so many shenanigans, like things that they get themselves into, and some bumps in the road here and there, but in the end, it all turns out to be one great father and son road trip adventure for sure. Yeah. And, the fact that this movie also had a huge impact on those whom the kids weren't really connecting with their fathers. But up until, say, seeing this movie, that's when they really started to. And I'm sure you know this too. Maybe some of you have been there. Feel free to share. Again, in the case of me, because it didn't really it didn't leave an impact on me. In the case of me, my relationship with my dad has always been a great one. I'm sure you guys know this too. Yeah. But anyways, some great moments here and there in a Goofy Movie. Great voice acting, top-notch animation in this, and with with the budget this film had, it was really good. The funny moments, the emotional moments, never fails in anything Disney. They're fantastic. Moments you don't see coming, but they're worth it. They're hilarious. The songs that come from a Goofy Movie, they're so memorable. What more do I really have to say? A Goofy Movie is without a doubt a really good, nostalgic, classic Disney animated film from the 1990s. Without a doubt. Okay. So, with the first things I've had to say about a Goofy Movie now out of the way, now, as always, for me, read the description / the story. The plot follows their cross-country road trip, Max and Goof, which is intended to help them bond, but complicates Max's plans to impress his crush, Roxanne. And here's another one right here that I'll read. Max, a typical teenager, wants to impress his crush, Roxanne, and attend a concert by his idol, the pop star Powerline. His father, Goofy, on the other hand, misunderstands Max's behavior and decides they need to bond on a fishing trip, just like Goofy did with his own father back in the 60s. Yeah, because it is technically established in this, as I recall, but yeah. Yeah, but just overall, when, Goofy was a little boy, and when he and his own dad, they did the same thing, and now he's going to do the same thing with his own child. Okay, so, now with reading the description / the story out of the way, well, I of course do have some background, but, well, we of course have, the Goofy movie documentary, so there's that, but still, And with what I have right here, so yeah. Well, a Goofy movie, I'm sure as you all know, of course you do, it originated from a TV special idea for the Goof Troop series and was intended to be a cheaper standalone animated film and something experimental outside of the big ones that were coming out. Of course, the Disney Renaissance films. And, well, basically, the background of a Goofy movie was shaped by a desire to give Goofy more emotional depth, and this being a theme inspired by Jeffrey Katzenberg's own difficult relationship with his daughter, and by the creative goal to make a modern, coming-of-age story similar to a John Hughes film. Yeah, because that's the direction a Goofy movie was trying to go for. And, I think it did pretty well. And despite intentional low expectations and a quiet release, well, the film, it did found a passion following over time and has since become a cult classic, as I said, but yeah. Because, of course, with Katzenberg being involved in a Goofy movie, and he was really, supporting this film, and with the director and the crew that was a part of this. And, of course, if you've seen the documentary all about a Goofy movie, you know the whole details and such. Because, yeah, they went through ups and downs, they went through some challenges, even when it came to, say, decisions that Katzenberg felt that maybe could have been necessary, but in the end, they weren't. Like, Katzenberg at first didn't think that Goofy's voice performance sounded good, and he should not speak Goofy. Maybe it should be something like Steve Martin. Not actually get Steve Martin to voice Goofy, but just have Bill Farmer, in other words, have Bill Farmer do Goofy with his regular voice. But of course, in the end, Katzenberg realized that, yeah, this isn't working, and it's just not Goofy. You can't have Goofy without that familiar voice. Gorge, that kind of voice. Yeah. So luckily that of course didn't happen with what Katzenberg first had in mind. And all the things that, the cast and crew were doing, and even not just Katzenberg, but even the film's director, Kevin Lima, having that kind of experience where, he kind of lost connection with his dad, didn't rekindle with him until very later on. I'm sure you know about this. And even when it seemed like the movie was in trouble, and when, say, Katzenberg, he resigned. He resigned Disney after, say, The Lion King. And just, they were worried, and they had no idea what was going to happen next with this movie. But, in the end, it managed to be finished in completion, and with its quiet release and all that, the rest was history. That's great to see. Yeah, so, just knowing about the background and history, all about a Goofy movie, and again, on account of the documentary, it's amazing. Just, yeah. Again, everybody that was a part of this movie and the film's director had no idea what was going to come after the movie was in full completion, and so on. All right, now with talking about some background out of the way, let us now dive into a Goofy movie itself. Break it down. Yeah, here we go. Well, first off, because after the Disney logo shows, the way the title of the movie shows, and hearing Goofy's iconic scream, his holler, just, it first says a movie, then the word Goofy pops in, a Goofy movie. Then we see our first main character, whom, if we couldn't tell already, he's having a dream. It's like a fantasy for him and all that, Max Goof, yes. And Max Goof being voiced by good old Jason Marsden. And whom, by the way, because some of his early voice acting he was doing, and before, say, a Goofy movie, well, most prominently, he was the voice of the cat version of Binks from Hocus Pocus. Yeah. So that's another thing he's most known for. He even did a little bit of voice acting in an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation, before, say, a Goofy movie, so yeah, I do know about that, and maybe some of you know too. Anyways, so Max, he hears someone calling out for his name, and that being a girl he has a crush on at school named Roxanne, and Roxanne being voiced by Kelly Martin. And yeah, because, you know, this dream that Max has, like, this is what he dreams of, you know, his crush being in love with him, and they were almost about to go in for a kiss, but that is until, say, it's like a transformation horror scene where, yeah, Max starts to transform into his father and grow into a giant, and this scares Roxanne. And when he's all full-blown Goofy, you know, even managing to make the Goofy laugh scary, and with thunder and lightning happening. But yeah, again, it was a dream. Max wakes up, and, well, he's actually running a little bit late to school. He's supposed to be on time for something specific that he and two of his friends are supposed to be doing at school at the auditorium. Yeah. And his friend PJ calls him up, and PJ, being voiced by Yakko/Pinky himself, also Carl Wheezer, that's another voice, that's another character he's best known for, Rob Paulsen himself, yep. So, yeah, so he's in a rush to get moving and head to school. And by the way, because when he answered the phone, it was a Mickey Mouse telephone. That's pretty cool. Gotta get Mickey Mouse in there somehow. Yeah, and another thing, well, until we get there, but you know by now. On account of Mickey Mouse. All right. But, yeah, and then Goofy stepping in, and already, because he's embarrassing his son, and the getup he has on, the towel over him, and, like, it's like, you know, it's like he's like a woman or whatever, because with how he's got the towel up here, so, you know, Morden, son, he's got a vacuum cleaner, and, Goofy, of course, being voiced by the one and only Bill Farmer. Yep. And is it me or, like, yeah, I mean, even though, because Bill Farmer had been voicing Goofy before, definitely this is what's solidified. Am I saying that right? Yeah, like, Bill Farmer at his best voicing Goofy. There's no doubt about it. So, yeah. And, well, yeah, because, you know, Goofy just embarrassing Max, and already, because, yeah, their relationship at first is very mutual and so on. And, well, Max getting ready for school, Goofy embarrassing him once more, like giving him his lunch and kissing him, just, yeah, some teenagers pass by, they laugh at him. And we come to one of our first songs after today. Yep, all of the, high schoolers talking about after today, because basically today is the last day of school, and by the next day, summer vacation. Yeah, but after today is a pretty good song, and for this being one of the first songs, the animation and pacing in it is great, and with what Max is going through and what he says through this song, just, yeah, understandable. And even when Roxanne passes by him, and when at one point they would cross paths, and, well, I mean, Max and Roxanne, like, their first interaction seemed to kind of go good, but Max feels that he's making an embarrassment of himself, making it awkward, even when he, at one point, laughs, just like his dad, you know, yeah, that. And he just walks off, and the look on Roxanne's face, well, I don't think we're sure at first, like, what she's thinking of, what's going through her, because, may seem as though, and a little later, that, maybe Roxanne does have a liking to Max, but we'll find out shortly. But yeah, so Max would then meet up with two of his pals, and they're about to take over the auditorium. Yeah, again, PJ showing up, and another friend of theirs whom, yeah, because he's in charge of the equipment and such. And yeah, that being Bobby, being voiced by Pauly Shore. Yeah. And in exchange for, like, you know, Bobby bringing in this equipment, Max gives Bobby a can of cheese and such. You know, you spray it and just... yeah, and Bobby being a memorable character and just, you know, ooh, just, yeah, with the spray can of cheese. Kind of gross, even to Max and PJ. And PJ, he's very nervous about this, especially since he took his dad's camera and is concerned and very worried that, well, his dad's gonna kill him. And Well, obviously, we know whom PJ's dad is, right? Yeah, but we'll get to him momentarily. So, yeah. So, in the school auditorium, everybody's celebrating, and even when they cheer class president Stacy, being voiced by Jenna Von Oy. I got her last name right. Because everybody seems to be having a good time, and when Stacy is, on stage. And also with the mention of Powerline, yep, the pop star, and, pop singer, I should say. And, then when, say, Stacy presents the school's principal, Mazur, if I hope I'm saying his name right, he comes out, everybody's just dead quiet, because him being the principal, and just, and the principal, making a speech, and, trying to, get the kids, into not wanting to, basically, he's not too fond of summer vacation, and he wants the kids to do something else, and, with them not doing summer vacation, maybe science slumber parties, And, of course, can't forget to acknowledge the principal being voiced by Rex himself, Wallace Shawn, and, how ironic is that, this would be the first Disney film where we hear Wallace Shawn's voice that same year when, months later, we would most prominently hear him as the voice of our favorite toy T-Rex. Of course, Wallace Shawn, even though there's not that much of the principal, and in the case of Wallace Shawn, he was still a memorable character. Even Wallace Shawn one time stated that, the principal being a very important character, and if it hadn't been him, then Goofy would have not taken Max on that father-son road trip. That's a fact. Yeah. Don't underestimate someone like Wallace Shawn. Inconceivable! I had to. Anyways. Well, little does the principal know, and everybody in the auditorium, that backstage, Max, PJ, and Bobby, because they're setting up the equipment, Max gets into Powerline gear, and, this is where they take over the auditorium, and they lift up a projection screen, and, they completely sabotage the school assembly, and overall, Max is wanting to impress Roxanne, and also on account of impressing everybody else, because they just find him funny, and because they know Max is the Goof Boy. He's the son of Goofy. And the song that Max lip syncs to is the song Standout. That was another pretty good song. Not to mention that Powerline is a mixture of, say, Prince and Michael Jackson. Obviously. That's what Powerline is based off of. Anyways, and everybody seems to be enjoying it, even when, a few things that don't go according to plan. Max accidentally steps over a cord and crashes through the projection screen, but everybody is really digging it, so is Roxanne, and when Bobby and PJ, they place a hook on the back of Max and his power line get up and having him go flying in the air. But that is until, say, the principal steps in, shuts the whole thing down, takes off the glasses, and basically Max, Bobby, and PJ, they're busted. Even when Bobby's like, we're busted. He seems cool with it, not fazed by it. And when, coming to, say, Goofy, because, he works at a store where he's taking pictures of babies and toddlers, trying to get them to smile, even when he's actually making a good accomplishment, actually getting the kids to be happy and all that. But when, say, Pete intervenes, the total opposite. We know the difference when it comes to, say, Pete and Goofy. And, of course, now enter Pete, the father of PJ, of course. And, of course, Pete being voiced by good old Jim Cummings himself. Yep. And, because the chemistry between Goofy and Pete sometimes is pretty good, and they seem to be on good terms. But, here's another thing. Because, the opposite of Goofy and Max, the father and son relationship towards PJ and Pete, it's very interesting to think about. Really, because, I don't know, because there's something that probably maybe even Goofy would know, because Pete being a very aggressive father or something, because PJ, I mean, he seems to, appreciate his father or something, but being very intimidated by him and all that, right? As it was explained earlier when, PJ was beyond terrified how his father would feel. And by this point, and also the fact that if you've seen a Goof Troop, well, you know that PJ had a sibling, a sister, and of course, Pete having a wife. And the fact that they're not in a Goofy movie, that just makes you wondering, even what the Nostalgia Critic had to say about that. All that he could say, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah. But, I mean, yeah. On and off, Pete himself has gone on, being an antagonist, but sometimes he can be a good character. I mean, Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, best example. Sure, there are plenty of moments with Pete in Mickey Mouse Clubhouse where he's being mischievous and such, but that's not to say he's a full-blown bad person, a cat, because he is a big cat. But some of the others that Pete's been in, well, you know this. And as for, say, the world of a Goofy movie and all that, well, I guess overall it's very complicating. No doubt about it. Anyways. Alright, but yeah. And coming back to Max, PJ, and Bobby, because they're waiting outside of the principal's office, each of them going in to meet with the principal. PJ was first, now it's Bobby's turn, bringing in the equipment, and he's totally chill with it. Even say he gave Max the can of cheese to guard it with his life and all that, Hey, principal, what's up? Yeah. And while Max is waiting to have a chat with the principal, well, Roxanne and Stacy pass by, and Stacy encourages Roxanne to go up and talk with Max. And even with Max not realizing that she's right there in front of him, because he's just got his head down and all that. But, yeah, once again, their interaction this time, well, I mean, each of them are doing the best they can. It's not just Max that's feeling the pressure, but Roxanne as well. And the fact that, to go ahead and say it because it is official that Roxanne actually does have a liking to Max. Well, and the same goes for Max. Yeah, he has a liking to her, so it's great to see. And, well, an invitation is offered where they both would go to Stacy's watch party of Powerline. And, yeah, the invitation is accepted, and Max is beyond happy by this. And he may be overreacting, especially when he starts to mambo with the lady at the front desk outside of the principal's office. And, because that Max is into, the music of the 90s, pop music and all that, rock and roll. Well, in the case of Goofy, he's into, say, Do the Conga and all that. And, well, Max couldn't help it but do some of that too. Yeah. So obviously a part of Max that also likes what his dad likes. That kind of music. Well, even I would, so yeah. But yeah, and well, the principal, because he then would call up Goofy. And yeah, because the principal would inform Goofy at one point while at work about Max's behavior. And well, the principal is misunderstood by Max's behavior, and the same would go for Goofy with what the principal tells Goofy. And, basically the principal making Goofy worried that he'll get the electric chair and all that, just in, capital trouble, etc. And yeah, this really upsets Goofy, and Goofy would then decide to take Max on a cross-country road, gotta slow down, trip to teach him to be more responsible. Yeah. And a decision made without consulting Max. Yeah, he did, this came out of nowhere for Max. And yeah, because right before that, Max was feeling so happy about himself, and the fact that as of now, everybody in the school now started to appreciate and respect Max more after what he did at the auditorium. Yeah, they loved what he did despite being busted by the principal. Well, obviously, they understood that. That's any kid's worst fear. Any kid/teenager in school getting busted and getting in trouble by those that work at the school, right? So, yeah. And like, getting, say, suspended or detention. Yeah. So even, like, say, when they start to chant his name, and yeah, Max feeling really good about himself. But when he would get back to the house, all that would stop when, yeah, out of nowhere, and with not consulting Max, Goofy surprises him with both of them going on vacation, a father and son road trip, going fishing at Lake Destiny. And the fact that, again, Goofy did the same thing with his own father years ago in the 60s. So, yeah, Goofy wanting to do the same for his own son, but Max, he's not having any of it. And nor did he get a chance to tell his dad about what he's going to be doing and such. And Goofy just finding whatever it takes to get Max to get in the car and all that, which eventually he would. However, as they start their journey, well, Max has his father stop the car for a moment so he can go up to Roxanne's house, and... Man, because, like, when Max first sees, like, say, Roxanne's dad, he's very intimidating, and, would almost, like, say, strangle Max or something. But luckily, Roxanne stepping in, confronting her daddy, just, that he's a friend and all that, just, it's all right. Yeah. Anyways, so basically, Max breaks the news to Roxanne that, well... the planned date to going to that watch party of Powerline is now not going to happen because, well, out of nowhere, and as Max explains to Roxanne, he and his dad are going on this road trip, and, well, Roxanne being upset by this, and by mentioning that she may go with someone else, but Max comes up with an excuse and actually basically lies to Roxanne's face that his dad and he himself knows Powerline, and saying that his father and Powerline, they used to be in a band in high school and all that, and, well, they'll be going to Los Angeles to be up on stage with Powerline. And, yeah, you just had to say it out of your own mouth, Max. Yeah, because this could only end well. But little does Max know, and us, the audience at first, what's really going to happen later on. And Roxanne, well, she believes Max, and, well, it seems to be good now, even when, like, Roxanne kisses Max on the cheek and all of that, just, yeah. Max kind of feels confident and happy now, but at the same time, like, he just told a big fat lie to Roxanne, and how's he going to say this to his dad? His dad being aware of this for a while, just, what's gonna happen next? Well, Max is gonna find out, and with whatever's gonna happen, while on the open road. Yes, and speaking of that, because now we're up there, because, well, the next song we would get into, and even when, like, Goofy tries to have some fun with his son while they're on the road, like maybe play a game or something, like, say a name, man or woman, man, Walt Disney. Yeah, that was a nice and cute reference of Walt Disney there. Then when it comes to, say, them playing music, Max is listening to heavy metal, rock and roll, but Goofy puts on, High Hopes, that song, yeah. But yeah, they just fight over the radio, but then the tape burns out, and now they've got nothing to listen to. So what now? Well, some things in the car, like the keys and the stuff that was packed on top of the car, they start to make noise and rattle, and starts to make a beat, and even so does the car. And that's when Goofy sings a song, which of course being On the Open Road. Yep. And I'd say probably, and I know that I have like maybe one or two favorite songs of a Goofy movie. I'd say On the Open Road's one of them. Yeah, because On the Open Road's a really good song, and I think, yeah, it would speak for those that, would travel on the road, doing that same kind of thing like what Goofy and Max are doing. And, the lyrics that each Goofy and Max have, the total opposite. And funny things that come in their path, like, yeah, because on each side of the road, like, different characters and the style of vehicles they're driving, just, yeah. And we even get, say, a cameo of Mickey and Donald during the song number On the Open Road. And not to mention that, Donald Duck was mentioned earlier. When Max thought at first that Goofy was going on a vacation, a road trip with Donald Duck, but nope. Because, yeah, when then it's realized that this is for both Goofy and Max. So, yeah. So, nice reference on Donald Duck and the fact we physically see them on screen. So, yeah, of course they exist in the world of a Goofy movie, and obviously because they're best friends to Goofy. But, you know, the thing is that why are they on the side of the road? Because they're obviously hitching for a ride. Am I to assume their car must have broken down? Probably, but just, yeah. But overall, On the Open Road is such a memorable song from a Goofy movie, without a doubt. And I'm sure it would be one of your top favorite songs from a Goofy movie. Also, can't forget to mention and acknowledge, at the time, the original voice of, and main voice of Mickey Mouse, Wayne Allen. Of course Wayne Allen would be voicing Mickey just for that one quick scene, and, you know, singing one lyric. Yeah, so, good on you, Wayne. Yeah, and also, because here's another thing. Now that I'm thinking of it, because, you know, because we see Donald. He's the only bird/duck character we see in this. Do you think it would have been nice if maybe we saw maybe a couple of other, like, duck or bird characters? Because most of the background characters we see are all, say, dogs. If you get what I'm saying, just, yeah. I mean, I don't know, because even, like, the later Disney films that we've seen, well, I mean, that has the entire gang, and, you know, like, say, with, like, the two Mickey Christmas films, Once Upon a Christmas, Twice Upon a Christmas, and there's a couple of other characters besides, like, dog characters, you know, you get what I'm saying. I mean, I feel like it would have been nice in the case of the Goofy movies, but, not that I'm making a huge deal about it, and not that I don't want it to bother me. It's okay, just, yeah. But anyways, so after On the Open Road, well, at one point, we'll even say with Goofy at times being distracted, and he's looking at the map at times, and that's the thing, because the map being a big part of the film, and where, the tracing, like what was drawn on the map, like the specific directions to Lake Destiny, had always been there, never been erased and all that. Well, at one point, Goofy decides to try to get his son into a good mood and, you know, wanting to do something fun with him by going to this amusement park, called Lester's Possum Park. Oh, man. That Lester's Possum Park sequence was pretty interesting. And I, of course, say that in a good way. Yeah, because, well, obviously, it's going to be more embarrassing for poor Max. Yeah, because when they get there, because, yeah, I mean, the kind of people that are there, they're enjoying this. They're not Max's people, technically, not his kind of people, but they are to Goofy's. And attending to this, watching this animatronic show, this Possum Jamboree show, definitely like a parody of, say, Country Bear Jamboree, without a doubt. And the Possum Park MC, yeah, being voiced by the late Pat Buttram, and whom had done a lot of voice work for Disney, his voice being so iconic, so memorable, even in the Disney films he had been in, from, say, The Aristocats, Robin Hood, The Rescuers, and, you know, a bunch of others he did. And, of course, people would also know him best for being in, say, Green Anchors. Yeah, but for us Disney fanatics, yeah, we know what we've seen and heard of Pat Buttram. And not to mention that a Goofy movie was one of Pat Buttram's last voice roles, as, well, that same year, Pat Buttram would sadly pass away. But that was great to see that before his death, he would do one more voice role. And he, of course, did not disappoint. Good old Pat Buttram. That's for sure. Yeah, so, and yeah, because Pat Buttram's last voice delivery as the MC is so great, because, you know, welcome to Lester's Possum Jamboree. Here it is. Yeah. But yeah, so with the show going on, but, you know, Goofy and the others, they're having a great time, but Max not really. And Max is still not having a great time, even when, you know, someone dressed up as Lester tries to interact with Max and give him a hug, but Max is not having any of it. Even when he, like, slaps the head of the mask, of the costume, backwards. And also, Goofy gave Max a possum-themed hat. And to make things more embarrassing and awkward, Goofy gets his picture taken with these two possums that are hanging upside down, and them being called the Dorks, and this just makes Max more embarrassed and more enraged towards his dad. He even at one point tried to hitch a ride, but that didn't last that long, and yeah, Max has just had it today. And Goofy feeling upset with Max, just, and with how Max is acting and all that, just nothing's helping for Max. Then later on, Goofy would then have, they would stop for the day and, / the evening to camp out. Goofy's assembling the tent and all that. And even when he tries to talk with Max a little, and, on account that they'll soon get to Lake Destiny, but yeah, nothing's really working. Then at one point, and while Goofy's trying to set up the tents and all that, that's all interrupted when Pete and PJ step in. Pete has this massive, awesome RV with so much to it. It has a basketball court. It has a special rooftop, a pool, all of that, a balcony. Man, that's something. Don't we all wish we had that kind of RV? Well, technically they do exist, but still, And, Max is happy to see that they're here, especially on account of PJ, and PJ happy to see Max, and at one point them talking about, say, Powerline, and, the fact that everybody knows now, those at school, and those that'll be at Stacy's watch party of Powerline, that Max is going to be on stage with Powerline, but still, how is Max going to achieve this? We'll soon find out. Then there's the interactions and conversations we get with, say, Pete and Max. Goofy, don't want to get the names mixed up and gotta slow down. Pete giving some Goofy advice and talk, basically encouraging him to, stand up and set his son straight to get him to listen and do what he wants Max to do and all that. But Goofy being so heartwarming and all of that, as if he really has that in him, if he's able to do that. But it's easy for Pete, because when at one point he's bowling, one pin didn't go down, and, Pete called out for PJ, and Pete could have done this himself, but selfishly, he got his son up here to go knock over to the pin. But PJ, he obeyed, so yeah. And, Pete and PJ, they'll be having a nice dinner, and Max, he's interested, but Goofy, already planned on him and Max to do fishing. Well, Max tells his dad that they can do it tomorrow, and he's wanting to join alongside with Pete and PJ on what they'll eat. But, Pete telling him to, just do it, set Max straight. And not to mention that, can't forget to mention this, that Max's full name is Maximilian. Okay. And yeah, just Goofy setting Max straight that we're going to fish. You will listen and we're going to go fish, and that's final. And, Max, he listens, but he's very annoyed by it. But, yep, they end up fishing, and, Goofy would at one point teach Max a family secret that has been in the generations of Goofy's family. The perfect cast. Yeah, because, the best way to, cast the line while fishing and such, and Goofy demonstrating, but, one point, he accidentally catches a steak that Pete was cooking on the grill, so he gets a hold of that. Goofy not realizing this, it goes all the way, and it would end up in the, presence of Bigfoot. Yeah. Boy, who'd have thought that, Bigfoot would be in a Disney animated film. But hey, it was worth it. Bigfoot was definitely a memorable character in this. And, of course, have to acknowledge, the voice of Bigfoot in a Goofy movie being the legendary voice actor himself, Frank Welker. Yep, Frank Welker is the voice of Bigfoot. Also, to name some of the other cast members, because, yeah, the voice of the possum Lester is the film's director, Kevin Lima. Also, Miss Maples, yeah, Miss Maples, who was outside of the principal's office, that was Joanne Worley, and a few others, like, yeah, there was Photo Studio Girl, played by Brittany, Alice Smith, Lester's grinning girl, being voiced by Robin Richards, Lisa, voiced by Julie Brown, and a character by the name of Chad, being voiced by Joey Lawrence, Tourist Kid, voiced by Clee Brager, and a couple of others, like, yeah, even Dante Bosco. Dante Bosco did additional voices, as well as, say, Cheryl Bernstein, Corey Burton, Pat Carroll, the voice of Ursula, Elizabeth Daly, there was also Carol Holiday, Steve Moore, Brian Primental, Jason Willinger, and those that were uncredited, well, yeah, because Powerline's voice actor is uncredited, but we'll get to him when we get there, yeah. Anyways, but back on point, because, yeah, Bigfoot, seeing the stake, following the stake, because, yeah, he got a hold of it. They're trying to reel it in, and when, yeah, Max shouts, "It's Bigfoot!" and they start running, and when Pete sees Bigfoot, oh, he immediately gets out of there. Everything is packed up in the RV. Pete and PJ, they dash out of there. And they leave poor Goofy and Max behind. And, yeah, poor Goofy and Max, father and son, they are stranded and stuck in the car. Even their belongings. Bigfoot at one point messes around with the belongings. And, well, there was one moment where Max especially was getting hungry. Luckily, there was a can of soup right in front of them outside of the car, Goofy trying to reach for it, but Bigfoot was about to charge at them, and just in time by getting the soup in there, closing up the window, yeah. Then, at one point, Bigfoot accidentally got a pair of headphones on him, listening to Staying Alive, ha, ha, ha. Yeah, that. And Bigfoot, he likes the tune, he likes the song. And yeah, throughout the rest of the evening, they're stuck there, but they manage to boil/cook up the soup. You know that thing where in your cars it's very burning hot? You know what I'm talking about, yeah. Well, that came in handy. And then it's mentioned, and on account of the can of soup, Hi Dad Soup. Yeah, this was a very pivotal moment in a Goofy movie for sure, one of them. Because, well, according to Goofy, and he's saying this to his son, that when he was little, Max used to, make words in the soup. Because, I mean, the whole alphabet soup and such, yeah, because that is what they're having, alphabet soup and all that. And with letters, many words that Max would say and put with the letters in the soup. And even when, say, one of them that Goofy lets out, "I love you," a pause right there, because, yeah. And it seems by this point, they're starting to really connect, slowly but surely, yeah. And, well, Max, once the soup is finished, he eats it, it was good for him, and, well, eventually, they would all sleep for the night, even Bigfoot, because Bigfoot, he climbed on top of their car, and he went to sleep, so, yeah. Unfortunately, a little later that evening, Max is having difficulty sleeping since both his dad and Bigfoot, they're snoring. Anyways, then at one point, it just strikes Max because, on account of the map, because he's making a very tough decision on if he's going to do this. Change the directions on the map. Instead of going to Lake Destiny, going to Los Angeles. Does he have the balls and courage to do it? Well, even when the pencil rolls out, and the lighting, how the lighting is, yeah, this is like, we know what's going on, but, yeah, he would do it. He would change the directions, unbeknownst to Goofy. Yeah. Even at one point, Goofy almost did wake up at one point and, asked his son, about numbers, like, how many, blah, 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 but then he went back to sleep. So, yeah. And, well, I mean, seemed to turn out fine. Goofy didn't notice. He went back to sleep and nothing else. But yeah. besides that, still, so far it seems that Max and Goofy, they're starting to connect pretty well. Oh, and by the way, because before Max would change the directions from Lake Destiny to Los Angeles, he at one point was trying to write a letter to Roxanne, a piece of paper he got from Lester's Possum Park, and trying to write a letter to Roxanne, but it was very difficult / complicated for Max, like, because by this point, just like, what can he do? But yeah, again, in the end, because when it would come to the map, he would change the directions. Yeah. Then, to speed things up some, because, yeah, at one point at a gas station, a rest stop, at a diner, well, and the waitress being voiced by the late Florence Stanley, whom would most prominently go on to be the voice of Miss Packard, I think I'm saying her name right, from Atlantis: The Lost Empire. You know which character that is. Yeah, she was so good in that. Anyways, so at the diner, Goofy decides and makes an announcement to everybody in the diner, and there's an Elvis impersonator there, that I hereby declare Maximilian to be the official navigator of this map, and yep, and Max is surprised by this, and it goes pretty well, and they toast to it, and a little montage we get of all the things that Max and Goofy do next. Like, yeah, like at one point Goofy is water skiing, and they go to this like monster truck show, and they're at an amusement park, and Max would discover that maybe they should now do some things to his dad's liking, like the House of Yarn, or witnessing a mime performing, and Goofy like doing scissors. There's nothing there, but yeah, doing the scissors thing. But it turns out that a piano drops on the mime, and yeah, they just walk off, their hands on their back and whistling. Like, nothing to see here. Like, we're not involved. Like, let's get out of here. Just like that kind of situation. Or even say when they're trying to replace a tire with a new one, all that. Just, yeah, all the fun things that Max and Goofy are doing. Yeah, it's going really great. And up to when they stop at a motel, like basically like a Mermaid Inn place, an aquarium and all that. Mermaid aquarium theme aquatic inn and all that, just, yeah. And just so happens that Pete and PJ also stop at that place too. And Pete pulled a joke on Max and Goof, like, this is the police, come out with your hands up, goofs, and yeah, they fell for it. And Pete had his son bring in some tubes because, I guess on account of the air conditioning, and they're leaking out water. They're squirting out water. Like, what's that all about? I don't know. But, yeah, and they did at one point order pizza, and, well, PJ and Max, they're keeping themselves occupied, eating pizza, watching TV, and both Goofy and Pete, they'll be hitting the jacuzzi. But at one point, Pete would overhear what his son PJ and Max are talking about. Los Angeles, Max changing the directions on the map, everything that they're saying, yeah, Pete does hear this. And, well, it's obvious Pete is going to mention this to Goofy in his way. And when they hit the jacuzzi, well, Pete does drop the information to Goofy about what Goofy's son did, like changing the directions on the map and all that, just, yeah. Goofy finds this hard to believe, and he refuses to believe what Pete is saying, but, yeah. And because, he feels intimidated and finds this insulting that, Pete is calling his son, a horrible son, and just, yeah, with what he's done to the map. And if Goofy's gonna give in and check the map. And then it just gets dark when what's coming up, where, I just love these lines that come from Goofy and Pete. And I'm sure the same goes for you. Their delivery and just, yeah, it gets very serious. Because, Goofy's saying, maybe Max isn't all the things you think a son should be, but, he loves me. And then Pete's saying, hey, my son respects me. And all that Goofy can say is, yeah. Because, yeah, Goofy, like, what can he really say to that. Just, and how can anybody, even with what the Nostalgia Critic had to say about that? Oh yeah, I'm with Doug on that, with his comment, and I'm sure you think so too. Because, an abusive side of Pete that he's keeping, and that's when Doug went in to then ask, where did the wife and daughter go? Again, like I brought up earlier, just like, man, what are we missing? Like, yeah, I'm sure maybe Kevin Lehman and the others might know, but, anyways, but, well, Goofy, I mean, even when Pete tells him as Goofy walks off, check the map, Goof, and, well, I mean, Goofy was deciding if he wanted to or not, but, like, he just pounds on the steering wheel, but then the hatch opens, and then, the map shows, and is he still gonna look at it? Well, when we cut back to PJ and Max, and when Goofy steps in, the look on Goofy's face, yeah, he looked at the map. He's now traumatized and all that. Well, I mean, PJ and Max, they don't make much of it. They just, and PJ saying goodbye to Max for now, and with trying to whisper the mentioning of Los Angeles, but yeah. And Goofy, he's just on the waterbed, just in the zone. He's completely lost. Again, traumatized. And a great transition, because by the next day, he still has that face. He still has that look on his face. And they will soon be making their way to a road junction. And, well, because Goofy made Max the official navigator, it's up to Max, like, to turn left or right, because, yeah, because left, obviously, is making their way to Los Angeles, but by turning right, it's Lake Destiny, obviously. And it's just happening all so fast, and Max, well, he gives in. He has to with what he wanted to do. Just, left, and turning left, and, oh man. Talk about this being very rare in the case of someone like Goofy, where Goofy is pissed. Oh man. It's not every day you see a character like Goofy be very serious and hurt and mad. Yeah, he is beyond mad. He feels betrayed, and, well, Max, he can see that and tries to talk with his dad, like trying to lighten the mood the best he can, but of course it's not working out. And with, how about a game, Dad? Okay, man or woman? Okay, Walt Disney. And he just turns over the car and by the side of I think, yeah, like a Grand Canyon. And Goofy just needs some time up to his own. Max, he tries to talk with his dad and all that, but Goofy, he wants to hear nothing of it. And Max, he's just like, whatever. And, he's mad too. And, like, he kind of, like, pounds one of the tires and leans on the back of the car. But then the car starts to roll away. It was not parked, in gear. And this is where it would lead to them trying to chase after the car, all while they're having an argument. And, somehow, with all that's happening, from them trying to stop the car, they're going from hill to hill, and then they end up in a river. Yeah, all while that's going on, they're in the middle of an argument and so on. Just, yeah. But somehow it all turns out, it works, all that works really well, and where it's obviously going to be leading to next. Because, yeah, obviously, they're going to mend things / patch things up, just, yeah. And the argument that both of them have, like, this is the conversation they should have had in the first place. But, because, yeah, I mean, Goofy telling his son about when the principal called and, yeah, but it's not what it seemed, what it was like to Goofy, and with what the principal described, and, that, on account that Max lied, just, yeah, and, well, just all the things they're talking about, and when, Goofy just wanted to simply take his son on a road trip, fishing and all, but, Max, like, then saying that, I'm not your little boy anymore, I've grown up, I've got my own life now, and Goofy's response, I know that, I just want to be a part of it, you're still my boy, no matter how big you get. And that does hit hard, even for Max, and in the end, everything has settled down. Even when the river actually, perfect timing, has settled. Yeah, no more rapids and all that. Nothing intense with the water. And then we would come to another song where they really start to rekindle. They really start to open up, and yeah, their father and son relationship becomes better than ever, which of course being nobody else but you. That was another good song number between Goofy and Max, without a doubt. Everything that they're getting off their chest and all the things they're saying and singing, it's so good. Yeah, Nothing Else About You was another excellent song number from a Goofy movie. Okay, and to still speed things up some, because yeah, after all that and they start to really rekindle, their relationship has mended, well, it's back to more intenseful stuff out on the river when, yep, they are soon about to approach a waterfall. And, well, Max is unable to get out of the car, like jump off the car. Goofy does, but yeah, now Max is the only one in peril. Goofy trying to use a fishing rod, but then, like, yeah, then it's switched around when, you know, he tried to save Max, he succeeded, but then Goofy, he falls to his doom, and Max, the perfect opportunity, it strikes him. The perfect line and all that, you know, with the fishing rod and such, just, yeah, doing that, and yeah, he succeeded, and he saved his dad. Yep, the perfect cast. Yeah, the perfect cast. It finally hit Max. Yep, so, yeah, and by this point, because they've lost a lot of belongings, and their car, by this point, not in good condition, but, you know, I mean, it managed to still be up and running, and while, you know, still being managing to drive it later on. And what would happen next? Well, Goofy is now determined, and even after, say, Max shared all of the details and information about, you know, Max being in love and wanting to impress the girl he has a crush on, and with going to the Powerline concert, well, this time Goofy does help out his son, get him on stage alongside with Powerline. And so them going to the Powerline concert, and that's when we would come to the next song number, Eye to Eye. Yes. Now that, of course, being another memorable song, and of course we get Powerline himself, and the voice of Powerline, well, overall the singing voice, and he's uncredited, which, you know, that's weird, but yeah. Also, Sheb Woolley was uncredited too. He was concert crew member Scream. Okay. Oh, yeah, because of the Wilhelm scream. That's right, because keep in mind, the late Sheb Woolley provided the Wilhelm scream. Yep. Because, yeah, the Wilhelm scream having a memorable part in a Goofy movie, because during the On the Open Road song and up to Eye, so, yeah, I'm sure you know that too. Yeah, but, yeah, Powerline being voiced/sung by Tevin Campbell. Yep. So, and again, Powerline being a parody and mixture of, say, Prince and Michael Jackson, just, yeah, Powerline just being such a memorable, iconic character to everybody that loves a Goofy movie. You know, and also, if I could take a moment to also mention this, because the impact that a Goofy movie left off, a lot of those that have cosplayed as those characters, especially those that cosplayed Powerline, even doing their own, like, stage performances as Powerline. I'm sure you guys are aware of that stuff. It's very cool. Yeah. But anyways, but back on point, because, yeah, Goofy and Max at one point are split up and just trying to find their way and to get on stage, even when Max, he gets caught by one of the security guards. The security guard being voiced by Herschel Barber? I hope I'm getting his full name right. But again, you know me sometimes. And Goofy, because he would accidentally walk into a fat lady's dressing room. You know, he'd get hit in the face. And the face that Goofy has, like, oh, you know, just, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, even Doug Walker. To mention Doug Walker again, he found that creepy. Just, oh well. But yeah, so yeah, he got hit in the face, but he finds himself in this, like, power bulb, you know, that that is hit with electricity, you know, that thing. And just so he happens to be in the one that's front and center of the stage. Meanwhile, because when we see Roxanne, Stacy, Bobby, and the others, well, they're watching this at Stacy's watch party of Powerline's concert in Ohio. Because, yeah, where Goofy and Max live is in Ohio. Yeah, so Goofy's there, he gets electrocuted, it blows up, and he's right there in front of Powerline. Max, he's on top of where the lights are, and he calls out to his dad, you know, do the fishing line dance and all that, you know, and Powerline, he's very impressed by it. And, yeah, the security guard trying to go after Max, but then, you know, the wires would break off, they would go swinging, the security guard would hit one of the screens, we would see everybody cheering, and Mickey Mouse being in the audience, too. Yeah, nice to see that he attended the concert. Where's Donald? Is he getting refreshments? Probably. Knowing Donald, of course. Missing out on the fun. Poor Donald. And yeah, Max, he's on stage too, with his dad and Powerline, and everybody back at home witnessing this. And of course, especially Roxanne. She's very happy by this and delighted. And PJ is surprised to see too, especially Pete. He you know, he spilled his drink, he spit it out. He can't believe what he's seeing. Max and Goofy on stage with Powerline. They actually did it. They're making history. You know, at one point they almost made history when they actually got full-length, proper, clear footage of Bigfoot, but they lost that footage when Bigfoot toyed with it. But yeah, overall, the concert goes really well, with both Max and Goofy performing alongside with Powerline, and the rest being history. And to quote Timothy Mouse, "You're making history!" That's true. Anyways. And then the aftermath/epilogue. After all that time on the road, the one hell of a journey that Max and Goofy had, and up to say, managing to achieve what Max was hoping to do, which did happen, being on stage with Powerline. They're finally home, and, well, Max going to visit Roxanne once again. And, yeah, this time, Max coming clean and confirming and telling Roxanne that all that stuff he said to her before he and Goofy disembarked, it was all a lie. Yeah. But, you know, and especially since Max, he tells Roxanne that, you know, he wanted her to like him, but she informs Max that she already did. Especially when he went, yeah, that's what made her start to like him. And yeah. And in the end, it all turns out good for both Max and Roxanne. However, Roxanne offered Max to do something with her this evening, but he said it would have to be until, say, tomorrow, because he is doing something with his dad. I'm presuming probably it has to do something with the car, since, yeah, the car's still working and driving. It's, well, by this point, it's not in good condition, but just, yeah. And, yeah, Roxanne understands, and, well, Max went in for a kiss on the lips, yeah. And, well, Goofy, because when they spot Goofy, you know, but the car, it explodes, and yep, Goofy then delivering the crashing through the roof on the porch, and that's when Max would introduce Roxanne to his dad. Yeah, enchanté, mademoiselle, and yeah, that's how the movie ends. The camera backs up, and, you know, it goes up in the sky, boom, that's how the movie ends. By the way, one other thing I forgot to mention, and when they're up on stage with Powerline, there was a nice, cute moment where Stacy and Bobby, they touched hands and when going for the cheese can. So yeah, love at first sight for both Bobby and Stacy. Just wanted to mention that because, yeah, couldn't forget to mention it because it was a cute moment right there. You know, especially when it came to an extremely goofy movie. Because think of it, Max and Bobby, they got girls in the first Goofy movie film. Then when it came to an extremely goofy movie, well, Goofy, of course, found love. So did PJ. That woman performing at that nightclub where you snap your fingers, her, yeah, good for PJ. Anyways, but of course, that's another story. An extremely goofy movie, because, yeah. But to round off, and with my final thoughts and words on a Goofy movie, yeah, because a Goofy movie, like I said, who'd have thought how much of a huge impact a Goofy movie would leave off. Just everything about a Goofy movie from beginning to end is so memorable. The storyline, the whole thing of father and son on the road, and eventually they would rekindle. Nice and heartwarming, touching moments here and there in this movie. The hilarious and emotional moments here and there, especially towards father and son. The cast of characters, great voice acting, fantastic animation, the songs, the music and score, the locations, all that road trip that Goofy and Max go through, just, yeah. Just what more do I really have to say? Just, yeah. Everything about a Goofy movie is so memorable, iconic, and such a Disney 90s classic. All of the above. And by the way, just very quickly, because, because with the aftermath of a Goofy movie, because, yeah, how much of a huge success and an impact it would leave off, and Kevin Lima, in this case, well, he would find himself doing other big projects at Disney, because, he would find himself directing one of the Disney animated films in the Renaissance, and actually, it would be the last one in the Disney Renaissance era, Tarzan, of course. And then, just a decade later, he would find himself directing a Disney film that would have animation to it, but most prominently, this being a live-action film. And that, of course, being Enchanted. So, good for Kevin Lima, because if it hadn't been for a Goofy movie, who knows what Kevin Lima would have done next in the industry of Disney. But yeah, just again, everything about a Goofy movie is so memorable, classic, like I said. And I'm giving a Goofy movie, well, is it obvious? Yeah. 10 out of 10 stars. Yes, 10 out of 10 stars for a Goofy movie. Without a doubt, just, yeah. Of course, it deserves 10 out of 10. Okay. And what about you guys? What did you think of a Goofy movie itself? What are your fondest memories of a Goofy movie itself? If you, like everyone else, this film left a huge impact on you. If any of you have had that same experience, you've had like a rocky relationship with your dad, but if it was thanks to this movie, then yeah. Favorite moments, favorite lines and quotes and sequences, everything that came from a Goofy movie. Is a Goofy movie one of your top favorite Disney animated films, especially from the 90s? Favorite pieces of Disney material that has to do with, say, Goofy? How do you feel about an extremely Goofy movie? Have you watched Goof Troop? What do you think of that? And with the character of Max himself, which are some of your favorite characters? Did you get some good laughs? Did you get teary-eyed? Because of course a Goofy movie does an excellent job delivering some hard-hitting moments. Yeah. Do you have any favorite songs? Do you have any merchandise of a Goofy movie? How can you not? Have you cosplayed? And, if you've seen anything else that has to do with a Goofy movie, like, if you've seen the D23 panel of a Goofy movie, that was a big thing that happened at D23 2015. And everything else that Disney has done in the later years that has to do with a Goofy movie, like at the Disney parks, just need I go on? Not to mention that, yeah, because my fondest memories going to the Disney parks was, when one time I had a meet and greet with Goofy at a very young age. I spent a long time with him. This was at Chef Mickey's. We played together, and then when I met Max at Hollywood Studios, he noticed one of my finger puppets, and he took me around to show all the other characters and the other people my finger puppets. So, okay, yeah, so those are a few things that, well, I guess in link with a Goofy movie, well, especially in the case of Max, as I just said, but all right. But yeah, anything like you have to share. And if you've been at the Disney parks, and obviously you've met Goofy a lot of times, but if you've also met, say, Max, yeah. But overall, and again, what do you think of a Goofy movie itself with what all I've had to say, my review, and yeah, what did you think of my review of a Goofy movie? Leave comments and give this review video a like, as always. And so, guys, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of a Goofy movie. Gorge. More review videos are coming your way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I will see you guys in the next video / review. And, well, of course, continuing on with the Disney Animated Movie Week, stay tuned because what I will be reviewing next, well, that same year when a Goofy movie came out, another hand-drawn animated film in the Disney Renaissance would come out. It would come out a couple of months after a Goofy movie, and do you even know what it is? 'Cause yeah, paint with all the colors of the wind. Yeah, I'm sure you know. Just yeah. Again, stay tuned for that. Take care. Happy anniversary to a Goofy movie, and peace out. Yo, gosh.